Hey, this is Jeff Chisholm with STR Home Financing. Thank you for joining us on another episode where we have another installment of three things that you should know. And very excited to have Ryan Duffy from Northwest Arkansas with us. Ryan is a realtor. He has a company that manages short-term rentals. So he knows the game. He knows the space. He fits right in line with the other experts that I've had on, in that he has devoted himself to the short-term rental space. So welcome, Ryan.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to fit this within the formula for the rest of our podcast, which are keep it under 10 minutes, and everything will be in threes today. So we'll start off with who you are, what makes you a human, whatever you want to share about your family, where you live, and then what you have done. So what's your background related to short-term rental, and then what are you doing to support the short-term community? So tell us who you are, Ryan.
Sure. Yes. So I'm Ryan Duffy. My wife Shay and I own Duffy Homes Realty, Duffy Homes LLC, which is a construction company, and then Ozark Mountain Vacation, which is our property management wing of the business. So Shay and I moved here from Chicago about six and a half years ago, and just completely started fresh. So Shay was an interior designer. I was a firefighter for 9 years. Had a series of back injuries. Couldn't do the job anymore, and pretty much just moved here on a whim, honestly. So we've completely reinvented ourselves. Shay got into real estate. I got into construction, and then those paths kind of came together. I'm kind of getting that in a minute, but we've got three kids now, ranging from 2 to 10. We've got a dog, a golden doodle, who's asleep next to me. He's a big lazy puppy, and yeah, we're kind of growing our family and growing our business here in Omaha, Arkansas, which is right on the border of Arkansas and Missouri. We're actually right in the Branson market, so we're 20 minutes from Branson. So that's where we are. So we kind of got into this as a accident of design, I guess you could say. So like I mentioned, Shay got into real estate. I was doing construction, and we both started to kind of build our businesses up at the same time, and got to the point where I was getting really busy. It was just myself and my partner, and Shay was still trying to build the real estate business, but we moved here not knowing anybody, right? And real estate's all about who you know. So it took a while. It took a good 2 or 3 years for her business to start gaining traction. And at one point towards the end of my early construction career, I was trying to convince her to quit. I'm like, hey, I'm too busy to go do estimates. Well, she had done construction estimates in Chicago. I'm like, you can go out and do estimates for me. Like, I know this will make money. And luckily she's smarter and firmer than I am. And she's like, no, like, this is about to break out. Like, I'm holding fast. And it wasn't 6 months after that conversation that I was getting my real estate license and working with her. So, I mean, she was obviously right. But, what happened was, we were living in this 3-bedroom, 3-bath, kind of an A-frame looking house. And we had outgrown it. We first moved here with 1 kid, then we had 2 kids, and then, now we got 3. But we got to the point where, every day we're having this conversation. It's like, we need to build an addition, we need to build a garage. And we kept telling ourselves this would be a great place to vacation at, but it's kind of rough raising kids in here. It had 3 levels of stairs, kids' rooms were on the top floor, our room was in the basement. So it was, running up and down 2 flights of stairs 3 times a night to change diapers. It was brutal. Well, she started working with this firm that specialized in short-term rentals. And she comes home one day and she's like, I bet if we put this place on Airbnb, we'd make 30 grand a year. And my first instinct was BS. There's no way. No way. We're in Omaha, Arkansas. Who's ever heard of Omaha, Arkansas?
And this was how many years ago?
This was 2019. This was
2019.
the beginning of 2019 is when the conversation started. And she was just real persistent. She's like, no, I've been working with these investors. I've been looking at P&Ls. She's like, we're 20 minutes from Branson. We're 2 minutes from Table Rock Lake. We're right next to a Cricket Creek Marina. And more so, there's no vacation rental restrictions where we're at. If you go 20 minutes north of us, 10 minutes north of us, on the Missouri side, it's regulated on a state and city level. So you can't just pick up a house like ours and make it a short-term rental. So that, then we're thinking, all right, this is, we've got a scarcity issue here. Like, it's supply and demand. Like, we've got something that people want 10 minutes away from us. So, I was still doing construction, and we talked my partner into buying a metal shop building with us that had just come on the market half a mile from our house. It had a 2-bedroom apartment built in half of it. The other half was just open shop space. And said, okay, you know, let's buy this together through our business. We'll rent back the apartment, and then we can use the shop space for our equipment and lumber and all that kind of stuff. So it actually worked out pretty well, so that we can move our family into this 2-bedroom apartment to do this short-term rental experiment. This was mid 2019 now. So we did a little bit of a lipstick on a pig deal. We rebuilt a deck. We repainted everything, and we threw it on Airbnb, hoping to do 30 grand a year. Well, the first year did like 2. So I mean, immediately out the gate, it's like, well, this isn't a hobby. Like, this is a real industry. This is a business. I mean, within 2 months, you know, the income that we're generating from that short-term rental completely replaced my net income from swinging a hammer 10 hours a day. So I mean, literally, it was that quick. You know, I was going to get my real estate license, and we were on to the next one. So so that's kind of how the whole thing started. You know, it was very organic. You know, we were very hands-on. I mean, we managed it, we cleaned it, we did the guest interaction, because we lived half a mile away. You know, that's why we bought the side by side, so we can run firewood and trash back and forth. And then it kind of snowballed from there, you know, as it does. You know, you get the bug, and it's like, wow, this thing's cash flowing. I can afford to buy another one.
Right.
You know. So that kind of brings us to where we're at today. You know, so it's been, you know, a little over 3 years now since we acquired our first property. Well, since we converted our first property. And you know, we've since sold the first one. We sold the second one, did a 1031, and now we've got a combined, say about 60 acres of property with 4 homes between the different properties. 2 are active rentals. One is about to be an active rental. So we kind of expanded into, we started our own brokerage. We turned the construction business back on. I never gave up my Arkansas home builder's license. And so now we're trying to build kind of a boutique niche service where we're not just connecting clients with properties. We're identifying properties that can be developed into short-term rentals. We're building unique custom short-term rentals. And we're also developing a management wing to support that structure. And we're staying very centralized. We're staying like within 5 miles of our home base. So we're not trying to get spread out. We're not trying to get real big. But really the biggest thing that we're trying to do is kind of twofold. We're trying to fix what we've noticed is an issue with the greater Branson short-term rental market. It's, you know, everything is cookie cutter. Everything's the same. And, you know, all these lodges they're building, all the condos in town, they're all identical. You know, aside from what you do with design. And, you know, I think that worked fine during the COVID years because everyone and their mother was getting stimmy checks and going out and going on Airbnb and staying places. But I'm sure we've all noticed in the industry, there's been a shift. You know, you're not getting the same occupancy you were a year ago unless you're doing something special and different. And that's kind of what we're trying to do. So, you know, right now we're in the process of building a shipping container home for ourselves. Completely impractical. It's not cheaper. It's not easier. But you know, we kind of looked around and we said, well, what don't we have within 200 miles of Branson? Like shipping container house. That's weird. That's different. So we found a piece of land here in Omaha with no restrictions, with killer lake views in either direction. And we started building a shipping container house. And then we've got 7 lots next to it that each one is going to be completely unique and different. We're not doing a single spec build. Everyone is completely thought up from scratch with the buyer. And we just gave him free reign. Said, hey, here's an architect. Here's a you know, a designer. You know, go work with them. Tell us what you want, and we'll work together and come up with a price. And we're gonna do something completely different from what everyone else is doing. And then the other side,
each one of them is going to have their own kind of cool factor.
Yes, exactly. And the other thing is we're not doing standalone condo. 75% of the Branson market, it's all designated as condominium. You know, because they're sharing amenities, they're sharing utilities, all that kind of stuff, and that makes it harder to finance. That makes it, I mean, you know, with the whole non-conforming, non-warrantable condo thing does, it's just kind of a pain. And on top of that, they're doing 0 lot line separation, so they're packing houses on top of each other. We're not doing anything smaller than a half-acre lot. I mean, period, full stop. You know, we could like when I was first started working with this landowner a year ago, one of the big builders came out and we're gonna outsource the building side of it. And, you know, he looked at this 5-acre lot and he said, this is great. We can zone it condo. We can fit 25 lodges on this property. And we kind of looked at each other like, I don't want that. Like, I'm building my house over there. And he's like, yeah, my house is down there. I don't want 25 lodges here. So, so that kind of got the wheels turning. It's like, man, we should just do this ourselves. You know, let's do something different to keep the community feel. And that kind of moves us on to our second point of what Shay and I are trying to do here. We're trying to use short-term rental investment development to lift up the community. So many of these developers, they just strip a hillside clean and they fit 60, 70 houses on it. We want to build parks. We want to build playgrounds. We want to build basketball courts. And we want to use our development in such a way where we can funnel money back into the community. It's one of the things that we loved about this place when we moved here was the freedom and the low taxes, to be honest with you. There's no restrictions, no regulations, no planning and zoning, and taxes are dirt cheap. Well, with that, I mean, no one's building parks and playgrounds, right? So we identified a 20-acre piece of land where one of the creeks feeds into Table Rock Lake, and we've got it under contract. And our plan is to donate a portion of it to a non-for-profit that we're going to form, and we're going to build up a glamping resort on that MPO. And all the revenue from that glamping resort is going to develop the part next to it where the creek feeds into the lake, and it's going to be a lakefront, creekfront kayak canoe park that's open to everybody. And it's kind of two-faceted. Yes, it's open to everybody. We're building a park. Well, it's also an amenity next to all of our other things that we're building. Because we're building all of our other STRs literally within a mile of that location. So I think it's a method that is being underutilized in our industry. Because a lot of people, a lot of communities, they look at short-term rentals, Airbnbs, whatever you want to call them, as kind of a detriment. Like, oh, all these investors are coming in and they're just buying up houses and putting them on Airbnb. Like, what if you can use it to lift up the community? It doesn't have to have that image, And I think there's a real opportunity here for that.
No, that's a great vision. Absolutely. Well, good info, and I can vouch that our two properties are in north central Arkansas, Ozarks, same type of terrain, lake. So it is absolutely beautiful in that part of the country. Not a lot of people realize it. Just what a gem it is in the United States. So we got to rush through these last three things here, Ryan, to keep around that 10-minute mark. But as a realtor that specializes in short-term rental properties, what are three things that people need to realize in the importance of using a realtor that does specialize in short-term rental?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to be quick on that. So someone that specializes in STR on the real estate side of things, they know the restrictions and regulations, because myself and my team, we are in it. We go to planning and zoning meetings, we read up on the notes, we look at on a state and a local and city level what's happening and what's coming down the pipe. That is key. I don't know how many people I've talked to that have gone through just whatever agent they found on Zillow to help them buy their place, and then they're calling us a couple months later saying, well, I didn't realize I couldn't short-term rent this legally. It's like, well, yeah, that's why you need to go through a specialist. You need to go through someone that knows the industry in and out on a local level. That's very important on a local level. And then the other thing too is, work with an agent who is also an investor themselves, right? Or at least has a really keen understanding of how this works, especially now as interest rates are going up and inventory is limited. I mean, it was a lot easier to get a 20% cash on cash return a year ago than it is now. So work with an agent who really knows the ins and outs, knows how to run a pro forma with you, and knows how to calculate the numbers. And lastly too, and I kind of touched on this with the last point, but make sure they're local. Make sure they really know that micro market. Because I'm licensed in Arkansas and Missouri. Technically, I could write a contract in Little Rock. I can write a contract in St. Louis. I would be doing my client a huge disservice if I did that, because I know nothing about those markets. So just because you've got an agent that works in that area, make sure they're really in that area. Make sure they're within a handful of miles of the place you're looking at, because otherwise, how are they going to be an expert at it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would be my key takeaways.
No, that you are spot on. And when I do a consultation call with a client, one of the resources that I send to them is a list of interview questions for the realtor that is going to expose them if they're not an expert, because this is not something that you want to mess around with. You don't want to deal with someone just because they're nice or they have that license in the state. I mean, you really want to grill them, first of all, to make sure that there's somebody that listens and they're an active listener versus taking you down all kinds of rabbit trails, because that may be a sign that they're really trying to avoid your question ultimately. But you want someone that's going to listen to you, that can really hear what you're looking to do, but also their answers leave you with confidence that, hey, they really know what they're talking about. And you're exactly right. If they're an owner, that's a whole nother level that I think is crucial, because they're going to get it and they know what's at stake. It's not they do a deal and they move on. They understand that this is an investment for you. It's an investment for your family. So those are all great points. So Ryan, appreciate that information. What are 3 ways people can get connected with you if they're interested in, property management, they're interested in building, they're interested in representation to buy in that Northwest Arkansas Branson area?
Yeah, shoot me an email, ryanduffyhomes@gmail.com. You can reach us on our website, duffyhomesllc.com. And then we're also on Facebook, Duffy Homes Branson.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast today. And hopefully people will connect, because I think that's a really, when we talk about emerging markets, Northwest Arkansas is a great place to invest. So thank you very much. And until next time, take care.
Thanks, Jeff. See ya.